I guess yes.
Mm.
Can you guys hear me?
No.
Check the mic. How's everybody doing out there tonight?
Spectacular.
You guys good? I was asking you guys, Joe.
All right.
Clive.
Yeah, I can hear you all right. Yep.
All right, so
okay.
Good. Audio check is complete. Check that off the list. So let's get right into it. As you guys have noticed, we're missing somebody tonight. Mr. Chris Stefanovich from HVACRVideos, big picture diagnosis guy. He's gone tonight. It's kind of sad the reason he's gone. He's going through a messy divorce, so he had to take the night off. So he won't be with us tonight. Instead, we got the one and only Mr. Clive on tonight. And
'tis I.
Mr. Clive has slowly become a good friend of the show, and he always brings a great personality, great conversation. So we knew Chris wasn't going to be here, so we invited him on, and we'll see where this takes us. In the meantime, real quick, Luke, if you're listening, bark twice. Cue the sound effect. There we go.
That's a good start. It's going very well.
No,
there we go.
I was debating whether or not to push the button. I was just gonna.
That was like a delay.
Almost like last stream when we were trying to end it, and Adam was just in La La Land, right?
Yeah, we're like, end it. Just
I gotta stop playing games.
End it.
Games are not good, right?
You gotta stop being so immature.
So I see Jessica's here, Scruff Dog's here, HVAC Grandpa's here. I've seen all the
Peter
regulars.
S is in here.
Peter S, absolutely. Carnival Ben's here.
Dog. Ike's in here. Dave G, Kangaroo God, Salty Dog.
Hamilton Mechanical.
I think he's hired. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to have a secret vote after the show, if you know what I mean. You know?
I was sure Joe was about to spit out his coffee when we were talking about the messy divorce going on.
I did not expect that. Oh my God. Who says that? Only Bill.
Chris isn't even watching. He doesn't even care. He's not even watching.
He was in chat.
He's signing papers, working out alimony stuff right now. It's all good. He won't ever notice this. He won't go back and watch this. I guarantee it.
He will.
So anyway, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good.
How's your week, Clive? You doing anything cool? You mentioned something about a gadget that you got in, a new gadget.
A gadget. Oh, the gadget that arrived today. I've been looking at the. Did I show you? I think I did show you the fogger last time. The sort of disinfecting fogger that takes these chemicals called Fogget. I thought I'd order the official Fogget fogger, so I ordered a set of the chemicals because I want to take it apart and see just how good it was. And it turns out
that's not the fogger you had last time.
No, it's the one that just showed up.
Not.
He said,
okay, I got you.
Having this noting that the top is not actually waterproof, but it's got the sticker on it. And I was thinking, is this just a cheap fog machine they've put a sticker on it? Turns out it's the cheapest fog machine they could get. All their contents are original. They've not changed the temperature. They've put a sticker on it and just bumped the price up.
Wow.
It's very exciting.
Where's it made?
A particularly notable feature, right? It's a plastic. Oh, China. It will be made in China. Plastic case, and it's not earthed. It's classed as double insulated, right? So there's no exposed metal, except these screws are connected onto the metal chassis, and this is connected onto it. Plus, during transit, it's been bumped, and you know how at the end of heat elements, you get the metal sleeve ends, and it goes into the ceramic bit, and then it's the crimp and then the terminal. The ceramic is cracked, so the metalwork is less than half a millimeter away. If you just touch it very lightly, these screws become live at 240 volts.
Wow.
It's very special.
Wow, that is very dangerous.
240 volts.
What's the warranty cover on that?
I think it's a case of you've bought it, you keep it. I think that's the warranty.
Now,
it's got the tiniest. You know, in the drain pumps of the air conditioning systems, you get the old solenoid valves, the ones that made that really loud buzzing noise when they're pumping. Well, these machines use the same thing, but it's the smallest I've ever seen. It's only about 1 inch diameter. It's really tiny.
The little pump is only about 1 inch in diameter?
Yeah.
What kind of a fog firepower are you working with right there?
Just typical average disco fog machine. It's not really huge. I could demonstrate it, but I have to plug it in and let it heat up.
And I don't want you to get electrocuted live.
I feel like you. That might be a bad idea, right?
Yeah, that might not go so well.
And it would be spraying noxious chemicals into there as well.
Where do you buy do you buy everything straight from China?
No, this one came from a UK seller that deals with car valeting products because they use these to fog the inside of vehicles.
Okay.
Peter Saint. Yeah, go ahead.
I was to say, do you happen to get all that stuff off like Alibaba?
Oh, AliExpress. I've bought some stuff from AliExpress, but they have problems shipping to Isle of Man for some reason. Sometimes they let you place the order, and then it says, now type in your address, and it just goes like, where? And that's it. So I don't buy an awful lot from AliExpress, mainly eBay.
Interesting.
We don't have AliExpress here. I don't know what that is.
AliExpress is...
Yeah, just go to the internet, Joe. Type in www.
W. Speaking of W's, we may have I'm not real sure, but we may have a special guest watching out in the show. So, John, if you're watching, you are pretty and everybody loves you.
John?
That's a little secret. Inside. It's the inside secret, Joe.
Stunning silence.
Inside.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go back to the www stuff.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask you about that book there, Bill, if you want to share it.
Oh yeah, this book. So in preparation for Clive, since he's like one of the smartest guys I've ever met, I decided to read this book. I'm about 2 chapters into this book right here. Good book. If anybody out there is looking for a book that's, it really explains the electrical theory, Ohm's law, everything surrounding electricity, but it explains it in a way where you can easily digest it, easily understand it. You pick up this book. I got this from one of the guys at work here. And so far, like I said, I'm into, I think, just about chapter 3. Real good book. Real good book. It's sort of like if you take commercial refrigeration for air conditioning technicians and then just take that whole book and made it into an electrical book. It's like it's written by techs, for techs. So go out and get it. Get yourself a copy.
Is it from Amazon?
This one was actually from a school that one of my guys went to. But I am currently shopping eBay for this because I want to try to get myself a copy. But it's like $100.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of waiting for.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for some crackhead who stole it and put it up on eBay to try to get a couple bucks out of it, so I can buy it for like $40.
Well, a lot of the authors or whatnot, they put them on MP3 or whatever format for the computer. So
yeah, like a PDF you can just download to your tablet. Yeah.
Yes. Much better.
That would be nice.
Much easier.
So what did you guys work on this week? Anything fun? Anything cool?
Well, Adam showed us that nice Daikin he installed the other day.
Mini split. It was today, but I'm still not done with it. I'm done with the wall mount head units, but onto the ducted portion, which is the grand, fun part.
How many heads were there?
There's 2 heads, 2 ducted air handlers. But,
okay,
I got half of it done. Half of it done. Not bad, but it just bothers me. I don't know. So it's a dirty house trying to feed line sets over like a 6 foot or not 6 foot, 6-inch ceiling, where there's like a gap in the ceiling. It's not fun. You get all that black dust from plaster and that falling in your face, and you come home and you look like a coal miner.
There you go, Ricky.
Oh, Ricky Hertz is asking.
Yeah, what book?
Nice. Yeah, I might take a look at that. It's funny you say that because I actually want to ask Clive a question. It's not a hard question or anything. I think we mentioned on the show last time. Was doing some controls. Maybe Adam's familiar with some of these controls. It was for zone heads on a hydronic system. And when you're sizing a transformer or whatnot, you get the VAs and blah, 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 blah. And my helper asked me, he's like, well, can't you just put 2 transformers together? If I usually carry a bigger, let's say a 7580 VA in my truck, but he goes, why can't you just put 2 together? And I figured, you know what? I think you can.
I think we talked about this before, but
yes.
Is it just standard AC output transformers?
Yes.
If they're matched, you should be able to connect them in parallel. That should work. You'd have to make sure the windings were matched around the right way, otherwise they just form a bit of a current path. But yeah, you can usually put them in series or parallel, depend. If you wanted more voltage, you can put 2 transformers in series.
Okay.
But if you want more current, you can put them in parallel.
If I put 2 24 volts in series, I'll get 48 volts out of it?
You should.
Yes.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. When you say in series, isn't there like a phase? Let's say you have to keep it in phase. So you can't, you know what I mean? So is there a way to join them to keep it in series and keep it in phase back and forth?
To do that, the only way you'd find that out if you had 2 different transformers, say with different voltage ratings. Suppose you had a 24-volt transformer secondary and you had a 12-volt, and you wanted to add them together to make 36 volts. If you wired them in series, measured the voltage, and the total voltage was actually just 12 volts, it would mean the second one was out of phase, so it deducted from the first one. So all you do is swap those 2 wires round, and then it would add on, and then you'd get your 36 volts.
Cool.
What?
Because there's a trick you can
explain that. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just read your book, Bill. It'll be there somewhere, probably.
I hope so.
There's a trick you can do. Say, for instance, here you've got 240 volts, right? And one of the biggest problems we've had in the past is things like water sterilization systems that use the ultraviolet fluorescent tube, but they keep burning their ballasts up because they're only designed for like 220 volts. And although it's only 24 volts more, it causes problems. What you can do, you can make a buck transformer. You get an ordinary transformer with, say, the 240 volt primary winding and a secondary winding at 24 volts. And you power the primary from the incoming supply, but then you put the secondary in series with the supply. And that means you can either add that 24 volts to the 240, or you can deduct it off it. So you end up with a lower voltage.
I'm kind of confused on like how you're saying to wire it in series. Can you like explain like, all right, so you have your primary, you know, basically your primary going into the transformer. Now your output, your secondary side of the transformer, how do you wire that in series?
Okay.
Like break it down for I'm a dummy.
Almost,
yeah, you have a common.
You can
and
figure
you have, sorry.
Almost like you turn it into an auto transformer. You know how the auto transformer just is one winding, but it's just tapped, if you're familiar with that? Probably not, because they're kind of rare. You wouldn't find them much in the HVAC equipment.
Yeah.
But if you imagine 2 cables coming in, one of them would go straight to the load. Both of them would initially go to the transformer primary. One would go straight to the load, but the other one would then go via the secondary before it went to the load. And then by swapping the polarity around, you could either buck or boost the voltage. And it means you can save stuff from, if something's not running very well because it's a bit too low a voltage, you can nudge it up. And if something's not lasting because it's got too high a voltage, you can nudge it down.
So in series,
things.
So in series, Clive, let's put it in layman's terms for Adam, because I think he's a little confused about this.
I was actually trying to break it down for you, Joe. Like I was trying to just be polite, so you
explain it for somebody else.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm good. I think I'm good. Okay, let's break it down for the guys that I don't think are picking this up, and maybe to confirm it myself. For in series, you would put, I guess, to put it in phase in series, it would be, I guess, your positive and your common together, and your positive and your negative on each side.
We can't really talk about positive and negative here because it would be AC.
Yeah.
But yes, the hot and return or live and neutral would, they'd go to the primary of the transformer to power it. Then one of those leads would continue onto the load. The other lead would go through the secondary first and then go to the load. And the thing is, the transformer doesn't have to be rated for the full load. All it has to be rated for is the current times the voltage that it was dropping or boosting. So suppose it was like 10 amps at 12 volts, it would only have to be, say, 120 volt amp transformer for that. It wouldn't have to deal with the whole load. That didn't help, did it? I made a video about it.
I was just curious because, you know, in HVAC, I know when it comes to a lot of zoning and stuff, I'm pretty sure Adam's been through this too with the TACOs, those, you know, those brown old TACO zone valves.
Tacos.
I think the 500 series Adam's wear. Anyways, they draw about maybe, I'm going to say 0.8 maybe amps. And if you run any more than 3 off of, let's say, a 40 V8 transformer, they're barely opening and you could get stuck. So a lot of times you have to upgrade it, you know, troubleshooting, service calls, upgrade it, blah, blah, blah. and you upgrade it to a bigger VA transformer. And it's a common thing, I think, in HVAC, what I see anyways. And I think it's pretty useful, guys, to know how to, let's say, even size different transformers. Pretty simple.
Now, real quick, let me bust in here and ask probably a real dumb question that you may have answered already. Go back to the transformer thing. So I sort of understand the phase swapping. If I have, let's go back to 2 transformers in series, 2 24-volt transformers. I'm talking about the secondary side. And I have, I'm going to draw a quick little picture.
Do it.
Pictures are the best. That really helps everyone understand.
It's going to be a horrible picture, by the way.
I'm going to draw a picture, too.
Can I draw one?
Make sure you guys
draw a dolphin.
If you guys are going to draw pictures,
a dolphin.
You better.
We could talk about blowholes again, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think we've had enough to drink quite yet.
Yeah, let's save that to the end of the show. So
I'm just disappointed that SeaWorld cancelled my membership.
Here's my 2 horribly drawn transformers, right? And these are both 24 volts on both sides, right?
Okay.
So if I want to get 48 volts out of this circuit, I wire them in series, correct?
Yes, you wire the primaries in parallel, so they're both getting the, say, for instance, I'm guessing a few 120 volts. But the secondaries, the 2 separate secondaries, you bridge them across. It then becomes almost like a center tap transformer, and that should then double the voltage.
So I want to go like...
So basically, the 24-volt output, so you have 24 volt in common on each transformer. This is like a test.
Go ahead, Adam. Yeah, I got you.
That would be in parallel, you've wired those. So you'd get 24 volts at higher current.
So 24 volts out of that one, huh?
If they were matched transformers. But if you got in that instance, if you got the polarities wrong, both transformers are basically short-circuiting each other.
Oh, that's good.
I would generally recommend sticking with one power supply and overrating it greatly above what's needed so it runs cool.
This is secondary. This is my understanding. What I would do.
Back it up.
Sucks,
I think you're upside down, and you're not even facing the camera.
He needs a bigger crane.
No, I'm not upside down. Look, this is parallel.
Did you draw that with a pencil?
Yeah.
They're using the plus and minus.
And your thumb is in your way.
Yeah, it helps me understand the phase and blah blah blah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Who uses a pencil anymore?
It's the only thing I had nearby. So in layman's terms, again, in parallel, you're just going to put the positive.
It's probably easier if Clive would just draw the diagram if he's got paper there, because we're all right here. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
I tried to mimic Bill. Okay, here's 2 transformers. I'm going to call R, because everyone knows in HVAC, 24 volts is R, the 24 volts output. So the wired in series, where do I connect this R terminal?
If wiring them in series, the R would go of one would go to the other terminal of the other.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way.
So, but
that's what I did.
R will go to negative.
It depends. There's another thing to consider.
Oh, we got to stop.
Some of these transformers might have one leg of the transformer grounded. Is that common in America?
Here it is, and at least on the package units that I see, they do have one grounded.
On the older, a lot of times. No, I think on there's some furnaces have one side of it grounded.
Is it grounded in the transformer itself?
Because
if you do that, you can't wire them in series, because if you actually connected the grounded terminal to the output of the other one, it would effectively short circuit. So one transformer is better. One bigger transformer is better.
The one question we had, we thought was going to be kind of easy.
Oh, nothing's easy with transformers.
No. I'm learning a lot, man.
So I guess the moral of the story is just buy a bigger VA transformer and call it.
And that's what I usually do. I always carry a bigger VA, have no issues, and then you don't have to worry about amp draw.
Take the old one out, hoard it for ages, and then resell it to a customer at full price.
You could. It's a good backup. Usually, these guys have seen it. I just make my own little relay box with a bigger transformer. It's less headaches. I know I have it like at my disposal, and it's easier to use. But anyways,
because I was just trying to think about when I'm at work, I have to carry all these like reference pictures because I can't remember stuff like this, like how you wire capacitors in series or parallel if you want to build up a bigger capacitor and make a smaller capacitor. So I keep reference pictures in my phone.
Nothing wrong with that. Just make sure they're backed up. Put them in Google Drive or something so you can find them later on if you smash your phone or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But pictures are always good.
Yeah, screen caps, quick little diagrams, things like that.
For instance, before you take anything apart, take photos of it. Modern cameras are so good at low light levels and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Getting a good solid picture means that when you start working on it, then wires pop off, or you have to wait for components and you go back to about a month later when you had problems getting stuff, then you know kind of where everything was before, particularly with weird control systems that aren't very well documented, like the foreign ones, like, you know, Italian ones.
Hey, leave the Italians out of this.
I saw
Italians. Can I just say Italians? Lovely design, absolutely terrible electronics.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's because they get so mad. They can't control their anger long enough to get anything done.
They do. Absolutely.
Joe, I drove past we saw a Lambo on the way home today in traffic. Just wanted to let you know. What do you mean only one? I'm not living by Drake, man. We're not, you know, it's not like Justin Bieber and all this stuff that we're hanging out.
You see a lot downtown Toronto. You see a lot of them. You see a lot of
Lambos.
Yeah, why not? Lambos, Ferraris,
because they're expensive. That's why not.
People have money here.
Which would I choose, a Lamborghini or a van? I'd choose the van. It's much more useful.
Yeah, true. You ever try to load up tools and inventory and tool bags in a Lambo, man?
Put a fridge in the back of a Lamborghini. That would just be terrible.
Right. I don't think they're thinking about fridges when you're driving a Lamborghini. Anyways,
no.
Bill, what call were you on? Because you were just like made it in time. What were you on?
Oh yeah, I just squeaked it home, man. So I went out to this somewhat of a new customer that we have. It's newer in my area, right? Great customer. They have these ginormous restaurants. And the thing I like about these customers, from what I've gathered so far, when they're doing these builds, when they're building these restaurants, they don't seem to take over existing structures and just, you know, modify them. They just straight build brand new buildings. All the equipment is like just beautiful. Stainless steel, like they got a rack system, for example, and the encasement is stainless steel. The whole thing's stainless steel. It's awesome. Nice. So anyway, I had to go there to fix the dining room. Didn't have any AC going on in it. And I forget what they were, like 25, 30-ton train units. But everything was a variable speed, and stage 1 and 2 compressors were in tandem, which I've never seen on a train unit before. They had 3 compressors in total. Compressor 1 and 2 were in tandem, which I believe is just circuit 1, and then circuit 2 was just a compressor all by itself. It's pretty interesting. Turns out the only problem was the thermostats were set in unoccupied mode. Simple repair. Couldn't really make a video out of it because it got real stupid, but
sometimes those faults are difficult because you don't expect something like that. You sometimes look for something more complicated, and then you find.
That's why I started recording, because I'm like, man, these are big old brand new units, all these communication wires. I'm like, this is going to be a cool little project. But then I was like, well, this is having the same problem as the unit over there. So I'm like, well, let's keep this simple. And then it turned out it was just in unoccupied mode. So I just had to reprogram the thermostats, change the schedule around a little bit.
So on that topic, on easy repair, something that you normally would overlook, a friend of mine, he works at this facility. It's like all these apartments and that. Somebody might refer to him as a maintenance man. But anyway, so they installed a condenser and a coil, and he had one of the other guys outside wiring it up. Okay, so he wired it up. There was a leak somewhere. There was a leak. They replaced the condenser and the coil. Wired it up, let it run, and about a week or so later, frozen up. One of the guys go out there, he's like, it's low on charge. So he adds charge, he lets it thaw, add charge. He's like, it's running good. A couple days later, frozen up. So they go back, they schedule time to go back, and they have to open up drywall. And they're like, there's got to be a leak in the line set. Let's replace the line set. Replace the line set. A couple days later, frozen up again. What it was? This is freaking mind-blowing. Tell me, this is a hard catch. If you're not thinking about this, he wired the load side, the unit, the power to the unit, to the line side of the contactor. So even when the unit, when the thermostat would cycle off, the condenser would continue to run and it would freeze up. And it would be partially frozen. They would think it's low because it's running outside. Hey, our charge is low. Look at our saturation temperature on our suction side, but it's actually frozen on the inside.
The incoming voltage you wired to the The outgoing side of the contactor?
No. He wired, instead of wiring the unit to the... Yeah, he wired the load side, or the line coming in to the load side of the contactor. So basically, he wired it to, when the contactor was supposed to close, he had hot all the time, right? If I'm saying that correctly. I got to think about it. But yeah, so even if 24 volts
would
ends...
run all the time, no matter what.
The compressor and fan would run all the time, even when the fan on the inside would shut off. And that's why they thought it was low on charge, because they were like, well, it's running. Let's check the charge. They wouldn't go inside to see if the fan was running. And the suction pressure would be very
and
low.
Nobody was like, man, this thing runs a lot.
No, nobody. I mean, think about it, because you usually don't, when you don't have air conditioning, when you're on a call, you don't shut off the thermostat when you're done, right?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, most people don't. I don't. I'm like, well, they need air.
Unless at the end of the season or something, right?
Right, but
yeah, I don't set foot in people's houses. They don't let me in there.
So yeah. Anyway,
The only time I go in there is like late at night when they're sleeping, and everybody's upstairs tucked in tight, and I'm downstairs creeping,
stealing their microwaves.
your fancy zip up boots, taking them off at the front door.
This does make me think miswiring a panel. It makes me think of when one of the companies I worked with, Northern Light, installed this big, well, we supplied a big control panel, which just controlled all the lighting in the building. And it had 3 phases coming into it, but at the factory to test it, because they just needed single phase to test it, they looped the 3 phases together just with wire links, really obvious wire links that went from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. And then the electricians that actually wired it on the site just stuck the 3 phases in, 415 volts between phases, with those shorting links still in there. And then when they turned it on, there was currently a meeting of the sort of like the architect and designer standing in front looking at the panel when they turned it on, and it just went bang.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, well.
Anybody get hurt or blinded?
No, just embarrassment, I think.
Oh, wow, man.
And a big sooty skid mark at the bottom of the panel.
Oh, yeah, I bet that wasn't the only skid mark.
Brown skid marks asunder.
I tell you what, man. That stuff will surprise you.
Oh, man.
When was the last time you guys got zapped?
It's been a while. Let's knock on wood if I have any wood near me.
I got burned today. I was using that. I want to post, like, I just want to post pictures trolling people on Facebook, because I feel like all these guys like have like a paper cut and they post pictures of their cut. Like, everyone show us your cuts for the day. Mm-hmm. But it's so stupid. But
I
anyway,
very rarely get cut. Like, not bragging, but like I don't know. I don't get cut that often. I don't know how people get so cut up. Unless you're doing ductwork, I guess you get cut up a lot.
I mean, I get cut. I got little, but they're like small little cuts. They're not like, I'm not going to call my mom about it and be like, hey, check this out. But I was using that the spin flare tool today, which I'm kind of, the results are, I'm not super happy with the tool.
No, hydraulic
manual?
slender, man.
What do you mean manual?
Like, which one is it?
The spin
tool.
The one that you use the drill with.
Oh, okay, that one.
I like it.
Try to do that manually.
Yeah,
Like, almost there. Almost got
I thought he was talking about the hydraulic, the one that gives a little twist. Anyways,
but I
Put
did
a
order
corkscrew thing on it.
I did order the NAVAC tool. I'm anxious to try that.
you serious?
I did it.
You're a little sneaky at it. You don't. You
the
want to keep
NAVAC
it secret, eh?
Like a swedging tool.
No, a flaring tool. It's like a drill that you basically hook onto the copper and you pull the trigger and it flares your copper for you.
I don't care about flares, but I would like to see that.
What?
Yeah.
I don't ever do any flares, but I would like to see how that works.
Yeah, me too. I don't know.
So you were using the power version of the one that actually spins and puts the flare in. Did you burn yourself?
Yeah, because the problem is, I think with all the new line sets, the easy pull line sets, they suck, right? Like, you can't really pull them back too far. They kind of get stuck. So like you can only pull them back a couple inches. So I'm holding it back, and you got to hold the copper, because otherwise it will move when you're doing it. And you're like 2 inches away from the flare, unless you give yourself a huge gap, and then you get leaky Armaflex and everything. But boom, that copper gets hot fast, very fast.
Yeah, so you got to get the Hillmore swedging tool, man. I love that thing. I might use it this weekend just to play around and brace some
I have
stuff.
that. I have the Hillmore. But I'm talking about flaring. That's what I was doing is flaring.
Oh yeah, I don't know how to do that. I just buy those pre-made flares and just braze them on the into my stuff if I ever need to. I honestly can't tell you the last time I had to even make a flare, take apart a flare, look at a flare, say the word flare other than Ric Flair.
Woo!
I just bought that. I bought that tool. I try to find excuses to use the HVAC overtime discount code with TrueTech Tools.
Nice plug. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use it, HVAC OT. Go ahead.
HVAC OTU. What do we get? Like 8% off or something? 9%?
Yeah.
I think it's like
8%.
30%.
30% off. You heard it here. 30% off. And if that's wrong, you can talk to Adam. You can email him, which he will never ever read, but
I will forward your emails to TrueTech Tools.
yeah.
So-
True.
Yeah,
True.
see if they work something out. Bill, I was gonna say, anything out of that book we could discuss since Clive is on here. Anything you wanted to talk about? If you read any of it, anything?
Oh man. Are we gonna put Clive on the spot? We're gonna test him.
All right.
Not-
Test me.
I'm sure there's nothing that I can remember from that book that I can decipher in a way that's gonna like blow Clive's mind.
I'm still like trying to figure out where to connect this dot.
Me too.
Oh my God.
Are we bringing it down over to here? Is that right?
We are so stupid when Clive's on. You know that? Like, I don't understand how we even have jobs.
So, Bill,
Oh my-
I've got a question for Bill. When was your first work-related electric shock?
Oh, it was back in my appliance days. I was working on a dryer, and I don't really know why, but I used to take dryers completely apart live because I knew where all the power was and going. You know, and I was like, I can take it apart live because most of the time they're wedged in there. You have to take the vent off. I mean, it's a whole chore to unplug them. Granted, you could turn the breaker off. I didn't want to do that. And so I pulled the tub out and I took the top and I swung the top open, not knowing that the cover on the 240 volt plug was about ready to fall off. So as soon as I swung that top open, hit that cover, it fell off, and that top was live right as I was touching it. And I don't know how many volts it was, 240, 120, but that was the first one I can remember.
To ground, it would have been 120 volt in
Yeah.
America. But you'd be holding lots of metal, and if it was a laundry equipment, if your hands were wet at all, that would have made things so much worse.
No, it wasn't too bad. Like I don't think I was grounded really good. Because I mean, I got a shock, but not
A lot
bad.
of people, right? A lot of people think they've had a significant shock, but in reality, if you're indoors and I did this in one of my live streams. I could touch a live wire right now and virtually no current flowed because I'm standing, like I've got Crocs on, standing in carpet on wood. There's nowhere for the current to go. And people get overconfident. They do things like, say, for instance, even if they're holding a panel door, they're holding the paintwork of the panel, and they do get a tingle, but it's literally, it only takes 1 milliamp, 1,000th of an amp to actually feel it strongly up your finger. And at 4 milliamps is the point you'll feel it engulfing the whole hand, but it's only approaching 10 milliamps that it starts clamping on. But people get so confident about these, say, oh, I've had lots of electric shocks, I'm immune. But then they go and work in somewhere where they're kneeling on wet ground or their hands are wet and they're in a grounded environment and it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Oh yeah.
Because instead of just a few milliamps, it'll be tens or hundreds of milliamps will flow. And it's like, that's when it's bad news.
That's I'm not sure how many milliamps that hit, but we had this discussion before where I got locked onto Greenfield where I was pulling wire off or pulling the Greenfield off of wire and it was still hot and I locked onto it. And after that happened, I was like kind of sketched out on electricity for like 2 days. I was like testing it with the meter and then like touching it and touching like the metal with my thumb, like tapping it.
For the people that
Very
know,
nervous.
Greenfield guys is like armored cable. BX, like we call it. We don't know Greenfield, so I'm just putting that out there.
Joe, if you go to Home Depot, they have Greenfield. I know like the hacks are very fluent in Canada and like the BX in the aisles are stacked to the ceiling, but there is also Greenfield. There is
I don't see
Greenfield.
Greenfield. I just see BX armored cable.
Okay.
Bill,
Is that right,
positive,
Clive?
negative.
So what
positive,
happened?
parallel.
Did you work out why you'd got that shock when that happened?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I do not remember. I remember testing it. I think something was backfeeding through the new, like something was messed up with the neutral or something. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I have no clue. That was like a year and a half ago. So I just remember it really hurt and it scared the crap out of me.
I got a good one for you. How do you guys test capacitors? Like in the field, you suspect it's bad. How do you test it?
Tongue.
Technically speaking, you should use a meter that's actually got a capacitor range. Is the only really, because if you stick an ohm meter across it, you'll see it gradually creeping up, but it won't tell you the value of the capacitor.
That's right.
And it's not such an issue with the motor capacitors, it's more of an issue with electrolytics, but they can dry out. But motor capacitors are less of an issue that way. It's kind of like either works or doesn't. And when it doesn't work, it sometimes puffs up and goes bang.
Yep. I had one puffed up the other day on a 1/3 horsepower condensing fan motor that I replaced. But it got me kind of thinking about how various people test them. Like if your go-to method's always under load, or if you just, pull the wires off, discharge it, and then test it that way, or...
I think it's easier to do. So, see, the one problem of doing it under load is a lot of times the rating of the capacitor is not visible how they have it strapped. So either way, you kind of have to kill the power and turn it off or whatever. Anyway. But you could get probably a good guess, for the most part. If I'm doing maintenance and it's running, it's super easy. What is it? It's the you take Herm, your amps of Herm times 2652 divided by
the voltage.
And that's your microfarad.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Good.
Good talk.
One thing to note, though, when you're using a capacitance tester on one of those capacitors, is discharge capacitor first, because if you've just pulled it off a main circuit, and particularly if it's got a faulty, suppose it was a motor start or run capacitor, particularly run capacitor, and the motor was faulty, so it wasn't in circuit to discharge it, then discharge them first, because otherwise you can pop your capacitance tester if you just stick it straight across it.
Interesting. What if you were to... I had one of my guys was trying, I don't really know why, but he was testing it to ground. He took one side of the meter, and one side was grounded, one side was on the capacitor. He was testing it to ground. I was like, you're kind of like acting like a bleed resistor. You're just bleeding off the charge that was there. And this was live, like the unit was running. I'm like, well, for one, that's dangerous. Two, I felt like he was just acting like a bleed resistor, and he wouldn't really get anything other than he would notice voltage.
If he was measuring voltage, then on the live side, the capacitor would get basically the full main supply. But on the other side, you'd get an intermediate voltage depending on the value of the capacitor and the windings. So it would give a rough indication. It's not what I'd call scientifically accurate, but it would be a basic rudimentary test.
Now, Clive, I have a question for you. Now that we're on the capacitor topic, I saw Brian Orr talking about this probably 6 or 8 months ago or whatnot. But so if you have an appliance, any kind of electrical device that needs a capacitor, and say that capacitor is missing, there's no nameplate, or it's so rusted that you can't read what it is and the value is reading 0, what would be the best bet? Would you have any idea? I'm putting you on the spot now, but is there a way to try to measure how the appliance is running? If you would say, this looks like I would need a 35, is there a way to test it to see, yes, it's running?
I think, I'm not really sure there. I think that most motor guys would just intuitively know the right size of capacitor for that, just because there'll be a fixed range of capacitors. But I'm not sure. You could experiment. If you carried a set of capacitors, you could try them and just see which is the best. But ideally, you'd look for something that gave you an indication of what the correct value was, so it ran at sort of manufacturer's spec, so to speak.
It's an interesting thing, because a lot of old units I run into, it's like completely rusted. You can't really, you can't tell. So, but
the good ones.
I suppose that if you came across a lot of old equipment, it would be useful to actually just note down what the capacitors were for a specific size of motor.
See,
but there will be some chart somewhere that has that online.
Probably. But if it doesn't have the name tag or whatnot, my problem is I have a hard time even finding my notes. I can't find my notes from last week.
Yeah,
so
the best thing to do there then is what Chris would do and actually have the entire motor replaced. and the capacitor.
To him, he's actually a Christian rapper of all things, but
Is that you?
Where's the other one?
I deleted the other one.
Oh,
Sorry.
man.
Anyway,
Yeah, Chris's diagnostic bills are longer than CVS receipts sometimes.
Absolutely. It's a very thorough job Chris does.
Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna replace this, and then the compressor because it's discolored a little bit, and then we're gonna repaint your unit, and then by the way,
Do you know what they say before Chris turns up? They say, "Oh, it's just a squeaky fan belt. It'll be nothing."
oh yeah, and Chris gets here. Well, you got your pulleys bad, your belt's bad, your drive pulleys bad, your blower bearings are bad, your blower motor's dirty, and not to mention your bearings in your motor. Your motor's amping 0.25 amps lower than it should be. The RLA is 0.6, and you're only getting 0.5.
Do you know that thing about belt tension? Right, you get belt tension testers, and they basically use resonance. Some of them you actually pluck the belt, and it makes a sort of resonant noise because there used to be these pieces of equipment where you could put it onto it, and it would actually vibrate it, test the tension. But it's very hard to explain to someone how to test the tension of a belt because it's very much a feely thing, isn't it? You can twist it to a degree to actually see how far you can twist it to see. It will vary because I'm so used to timing belts and stepper motors and stuff like that.
I've never had to time a belt. I've never had to time a belt.
Okay,
that seems like a difficult process.
I did timing on a car once.
Yes, I think he's just talking in general, right?
A timing belt is just the belt with the teeth in it. It's not necessarily like the timing in the car. It's just like
the type of belt.
Have you ever seen the drinks vending machines that the little conveyor belt goes up and then it like drops the drink in it and then it sort of goes back down? And it's like,
I know what you're talking about.
If you look at the side,
Yeah.
you know those teeth belt that go over the stepper motor at the top? That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, I got you.
We use them in a lot of the sort of lighting equipment, and the tension is fairly crucial because you find some that they've just tightened it up really tight and it's putting tons of pressure on the bearings, or it actually stretches the belt itself, or if it's too loose it can actually vibrate and it can cog and slot backwards and forwards, and then that causes feedback problems. Not such a big issue with fans.
You guys ever use that belt tensioning tool?
No.
The belt tensioning tool I use is my finger.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just push down on them. About a half-inch deflection.
About that, yep.
You know,
yes. It is sometimes a little bit more, more crucial if you're having problems like the sheaves off and blah blah misalignment. But yeah, I think if you feel that, what is it, about an inch? You could say reflection. I think you're good.
I mean,
Right.
I've never seen one of those tools in real life. Yeah, reflection.
Yeah, so deflection.
You using those like reflective belts, the stainless steel belts?
Stainless steel reflective belts.
Yeah,
The fancy
the glass belts.
I'm wearing a Gucci deflective belt. No, I'm joking. I'll never wear that.
I don't know.
So
about
hold on,
that,
we've
Joe.
gone from stainless steel reflective or deflective belts to glass belts. What are you talking about here?
Nah, we don't really know.
We're
not
still
even drunk. We're not even drunk, and we just get kind of dumb sometimes.
I'm working on it. I got gin now. I moved up from Guinness.
Right.
I got Diet Pepsi.
I've got cheap wine that I've run through the soda stream.
I have
It's
champagne?
champagne now.
I have to drink non-alcoholic beverages because I don't know how to moderate stuff because I'm lame.
Yeah.
Moderation, man.
Wild drunken orgies from the past.
Yep. Those are the best. The good old days.
I wish.
Don't fit the balls.
Mine was all just get drunk every day and watch YouTube videos.
Sounds like good to me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
was a
say.
good
Sounds like a
time.
dream.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's why it was so addictive, man. Because I'm like, oh, just go home, slam some booze, watch YouTube.
Someone just mentioned dreams there, right? Did someone just mention dreams?
Yeah.
Have you ever had those really horrible dreams where you go and do a job in the dream and it just everything goes wrong and it's like you've done the full job and then you wake up and realize that it was just a dream and it was just like a really hard night's work?
No, I have more days like that's like actually happens more than I ever dream it.
I unfortunately dream about working all the time, which is
right?
I wake up tired then and I'm like, I need a break. I'll take 20. You know?
You wake up and you're like filling out an invoice.
Yeah.
Adam, did you see chat when you were talking about the capacitor thing? Blah blah blah. There's a few guys like Rick was talking about. There's a power factor. Yada yada yada.
Capacitor. I did not see that, but I remember there was some type of way to figure it out. There's some kind of something.
Are you trying to figure out what sort of capacitor goes with a motor?
You're like testing the power factor or something to see how the motor or compressor is running, and then you could like change them and see the difference. And I don't know. This is kind of
that was something that I was reading about in this book, because motors and compressors are what you call an inductive load. And in order to you can't use Ohm's law on them because they're an inductive load, and then something yada 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 with power factor.
Power factor's relation of the current waveform to the voltage waveform, because if with a pure resistive load like a lamp or just a ballast resistor, the voltage and current would go up and down in perfect time. But when you've either got capacitance or inductance, it causes them to go out of phase. So technically speaking, I suppose in a sense that if you were swapping capacitors and by actually monitoring the load of the system, you might be able to actually deduce it that way. I'm not sure.
I always find these power factors though, like weird, not weird, but how do they get them? Let's say even when, let's say ampacity, if you're trying to size a circuit or find a wire, wire gauge, blah blah blah. Your times in your I guess your amps by the 1.9 your power factor for safety, whatever.
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Nope.
All I know is the power factor. The only time I ever use power factor is when I'm using my redfish meter. If I'm on a problem job and I'm doing like the whole measure quick workup.
All I know is the filter has an arrow on it that directs airflow. That's it.
I think it was
Bill. See, the more you know about this, Bill, the more you know about electricity, the harder your job is going to get. Because suddenly you're going to realize things that you didn't realize before, and you're going to get fussed all over them, and then it's going to get.
And then I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to try to calculate power factor now, and I'm like, I don't even know how to calculate
power factor. I can improve your power factor, but I don't know why I'm doing it.
Like a multi-circuit. If you're trying to size a circuit, let's say a circuit is a multi-circuit, you have to do like the largest value of the amperage. You got to, let's say, times it by 1 point something. I think it's 1.25. Actually, it's not 9. I think
it's 1.9. It's like hugely different answers we're gonna get here. So you're supposed to be informative on this show. Don't take Joe's equations.
I'm gonna go with lesser. I'm gonna go 1.25. That's
final answer.
Perfect power factor is 1. Shit power factor is 0, more or less. But
right.
Now, Andy Keith says, is a sausage or hot dog unity power factor? I can answer that decisively. Because they're a resistive load and you're passing electrical current through hot dogs and sausages, they are very consistently unity power factor.
No idea what that even means.
Watch my videos.
Like united hot dogs?
I don't know. You get to, if you stick electrodes and then to hot dogs, you can cook them from mains.
Honestly,
you know what I'm gonna do? Sorry, I'm gonna. What is the resistance of a hot dog? I need to figure that out this weekend.
It depends. Oh, that's a problem because I electrocuted some German bratwursts with my special test equipment. It's basically a square pin plug, so 240 volts with 2 forks in the end. Basically, one connected to live, one connected to the neutral. And I've found major resistance variation between hot dogs, and it depends on the amount of brine used. If they're very moist and salty, they're very highly conductive. And the best so far, I've managed to get 950 watts from a German bratwurst.
Now, if anybody out there wonders why we're talking about hot dogs and sausages on the HVAC Overtime show, it's for one, we love hot dogs and sausages.
Absolutely.
And two, Mr. Big Clive there made a video where he basically cooked a hot dog using electricity on his channel. Go over and check it out. Big Clive.
And I got to say, Clive, I watch a lot of your videos, in the past several months, and I find them all entertaining. But for whatever reason, I'm just like staring at like the hot dog videos. I'm like, what is going to happen? I need to see this.
It's one of these things. I always thought, am I overdoing the hot dog videos? But it doesn't matter how many hot dog videos I put up. The other thing I'm going to try is maybe what they call Scotch eggs. Do you guys know what a Scotch egg is?
No.
It's like a duck egg.
It's a hard-boiled egg encased entirely in sausage and then breadcrumbs.
What?
Oh my god!
Oh right, okay. Delicious. So this is going to be a controversial video then. It's a snack. It's basically sausage-coated egg.
Can you fry this?
I thought this was standard, but then I suppose the clue.
No, I've never heard of that. That sounds better than Better than those stupid caramel eggs that I get for Easter.
So I should zap one of them, but I'm also wondering maybe I should do a chocolate eclair and see how conductive chocolate eclairs are.
A Twinkie?
Or we can't eat Twinkies over here easily. They're not very standard here.
Oh, no?
Because they're too sickly, and they also sell them in absolutely huge bags to obese Americans.
That's true. That's true. We are obese.
You know what's amazing, Bill? That you're a great tech, and you know how to troubleshoot electrical as well and everything. But now you're looking at this book, and you're like, huh?
It's like a whole new world is open up. Honestly,
that's what all the time in HVAC or anything. I think any trade, the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know. Right?
Okay, there's a name for that. Do you know what it is? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And you know how you get the cocky apprentice who does like after 1 year of training, he thinks he knows absolutely everything there is to know, and like they'll take on jobs because like they just don't know enough to actually realize just how complex they are, and they'll bumble their way through. But as you get older, and the more you know, the less your confidence is. And it's like the confidence graph, basically it goes up really steep, and then it's like plummets when you realize just how little you know, and then it just builds slowly up from that.
Yeah, see, I'm on the slowly going up because I've realized how little I know. And
honestly, you don't want to get too far up that graph, because the more further up, it's useful, but suddenly you can see all the things why you can't just stick those two wires together or just randomly stick that transformer capacitor in. Suddenly it all gets really complex.
I think a certain level of that upswing of confidence after you've humbled yourself and you realize you don't know as much as you think you know, a certain level of that confidence is good, because it helps when you're explaining things or training new technicians, or explaining to a customer what's going on. You have that confidence, like, hey, listen, I can't tell you exactly why electricity is not flowing through here and what it does on a molecular level, but I can tell you your thermostat is in occupied mode, so stop messing with it. You just get a little bit more confidence, but you don't get over cocky about it.
It's I guess it depends where as well, because up here, when you're, let's say, your top level refrigeration, you're allowed to work in the panel. You're actually allowed to hook up or yada, yada, yada in the panel. With anything else, any other trade, unless obviously you're an electrician, you're not allowed to. So I guess you get that little bit of that background as well. Like when I was talking about sizing the multi-circuit, you guys are looking at me like I was on Chinese.
Well, 1.9, 1.2, 1.29, where are we at, Joe?
1.25. It's 100%.
100%.
What's 1.25 now?
He doesn't know what we're even talking about anymore.
What are you trying to cite? Let's say a multi-circuit,
power factory.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Ampacity. You're trying to size a circuit breaker or whatever. Yeah.
You have a hard time understanding him while you're talking to him. Try texting with this guy. Try going on a text stream with him.
Yeah, try reading one of his texts.
I think Clive maybe got me a bit. Go ahead, Clive.
It's like if somebody was doing auto text or talk text and they were just like coughing and throwing up at the same time. That's Joe's messages.
I can tie something into last week here. Now, remember last week we were talking about the use of one of the windings in a compressor as a crankcase heater by putting a capacitor, by basically having one feed continuously, only switching two circuits through the contactors, but also have a capacitor that bridged one of the contacts by the look of it. Am I right in saying that was what was happening? And
I think that was Chris talking about the shunt two-pole contactor.
Yeah, so it's like right.
So that would leave current flowing through the one of the windings, which would actually just add a bit of warmth. To be honest, the power factor of that would be absolutely terrible. It would be, basically speaking, you can get charged different ways by your utility company. You could charge for apparent power, which is what it looks like it's drawing, and you get charged real power. And real power is how most domestic things are charged. But when you get industrial places, they charge them apparent power. Because if you have really shit loads, like just loads of transformers or motors that have terrible power factor, the utility company actually has to allow for those. It might only look like it's drawing 1,000 watts, but it's actually the current it's drawing would be the equivalent to a 2,000 watt load. So it can cost you a lot more in terms of the running costs. If they were actually using a capacitor to limit current through that winding and use it as a heater, that would have been quite a lot of current probably, and that would be a terrible power factor. So they could actually be paying through the nose just to use that. It would actually be more expensive than actually just stuffing a crankcase heater in, a little resistive one.
So you want to save your customers money?
Yeah.
Install a two-pole contactor and not a single.
Or like that training unit that I was talking about, you can just take one side. I mean, if it's a three-phase compressor, just put one of those wires right on the constant side, the incoming power side, and then it'll always have power. So it'll always stay warm till it eventually destroys itself.
But there does need to be. You can, if you have a 3-phase motor and you only apply one phase, there's nowhere for the current to go. That's why I think there was a capacitor across one of the other contactor circuits, so that when it was off, when the motor wasn't running, there was a current path back, but regulated by the capacitor, which is allowing a certain amount of charge in each half cycle, which would give some heat dissipation from the motor. But I don't know, because with Hussman, it was always, we never used that. We always had crankcase heaters if we needed heaters.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand. I can't remember the schematic. It was in that video, but yeah, I don't remember offhand.
Joe Shearer just did Ricky Hertz mentioned this. Joe Shearer did a video the other day on, I think it was an old train unit, and he was showing basically the power through when it was not energized and that. So I don't know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I have to look at that.
All right, so jumping on a new subject here. Today I looked at a walk-in freezer, really old walk-in freezer, and it's been kind of, it's 30 years old. It's been jerry-rigged, lots of stuff going on. But as I was playing around with this system, I noticed that when you put it in defrost or the thermostat is satisfied, it doesn't pump up, doesn't pump down. It just shuts right off. Now, I have a feeling I know why whoever did that. But I want to throw it up to you guys, see what you guys think.
So say that again. So when it goes to defrost, it just shuts off?
Shuts off, doesn't pump down. Or when the thermostat's satisfied, just shuts off.
Could it be the pressure switch wasn't working? Or, I mean, I take it then they just used the thermostat directly to control the compressor then?
The pressure switch did work. I did verify that.
Right, okay. And it was in circuit?
It was in part of the circuit, not where it should have been. Because they didn't have the pressure switch breaking the contactor. The pressure switch.
I've come across weird situations before, like say the defrost termination on a panel. I went into a problem at a case in a supermarket, and they'd had lots of problems with it. And it turned out that looking down, the defrost termination stat was in the wrong terminal. So it wasn't terminating at the end of the defrost. So to allow for that, they just fudged things. They just changed times and just instead of actually fixing the original fault, they'd compensated for it by doing other things.
It's funny you should mention it, because that was one of the other problems we had. The defrost termination switch, the red wire, which is your neutral, was on the X terminal, and the brown wire, which is your termination wire, was on the neutral. And the fan wire was in the proper place. So when it would get cold, the neutral and the fan would connect, close that part of the circuit, and then it would kick the defrost termination switch off. So it would never go into defrost. That was one of the problems.
Okay.
See, when you were talking about this, I thought you said he did it on purpose for a reason.
The pump down switch, I think whoever did it for a reason. Now, I didn't get too into this because it's an old unit. I didn't want to start opening up a can of worms and finding this problem, that problem. Then next thing you know, the freezer's down, right? So I left it as is, and I mean it's complete junk. It needs to be replaced. So I was thinking, it's like, I bet they did that. I bet they wired it up so it just shuts right off, because that compressor probably has inefficient valves. It's probably leaking by and it can't physically pump down. That's what I was thinking.
It would just maybe keep cycling or something like that.
Yeah, like it might get low. It might pump down like 10, 20 psi on the low side, but never actually low enough to shut off. And you can't set the pressure switch high enough to satisfy that, because then it would just short cycle on and off, on and off.
I was going to ask you where the condenser unit is. I guess it's on top of the walk-in, the unit.
Yeah, it's up on the roof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing. Like, after I left Hussman, a while later, Hussman kind of shut down in Glasgow, but all the guys went freelance. They were all really good refrigeration engineers. And they ended up working directly for a big supermarket chain. And you know how sometimes you go in and there's stuff that's been just installed wrong from day one, And instead of fixing it, nobody really understands why it was wrong. So it's just this system has been operating really inefficiently for like the full duration of its lifespan. They had 2 teams of engineers, and whichever job one was doing the engineering, the installation on, the other team would then come in afterwards and they'd commission it. So they would check. So you'd have 2 teams checking each other's work, alternating backwards and forwards. It was quite an interesting system, but it meant that, they'd pick up any bugs or problems.
Did it work out pretty good for him, or was there?
Apparently it did. They seemed to quite enjoy it, and they weren't bothered. If anything, it was an incentive to actually do the job properly. That another bunch of guys was going to be coming and checking it thoroughly, particularly guys who actually knew what they were doing, because they were actually refrigeration engineers, not just sort of commissioners as such.
Interesting.
I like that. We Chipmunk 2008. There's a few Canadians in here as well.
Oh man!
Here's
shut it down. Kick them out.
Can I just mention about Canada? Why are there so many really good technical channels on YouTube that are Canadian? It's like it's almost like that's all they seem to do in Canada is technical stuff.
The level. It's just where we like to stay up there, Clive.
Just a bunch of smart guys. They're setting the bar for us Americans that really want to try hard.
Keep running.
I think it's because Canada is so inhospitable that the only people that actually work there are actually working. It's like for
that's the only way we can get
industry.
in.
Yeah,
yeah.
But they only let you run BX in Canada.
Yeah, nice Greenfield. Who uses Greenfield? You're lucky you're our neighbors. Yeah.
Greenfield's amazing.
Yeah, it's much better than BX.
It is. It does sound cool, and the way
cool.
I just never use it.
The only thing I know about Canada, I learned from that heavy rescue show on Netflix.
That's a good show.
Damn right it is. Love that show, man. You guys' rows are just nuts. The accidents they have in that show, just nuts. Oh
yes.
So I learned like not all the cops in Canada ride mooses. Some of them
See?
actually have like police cars.
Right?
No.
Yeah, the ones on the freeway have like real police cars.
No way.
And no Saint Bernards like Adam thinks. A Bernard with a cowbell on his neck.
See,
It's
but
not a
those
cowbell.
cops-
It's a barrel. It's a
Yeah,
barrel.
barrel.
They go up to the mountains to rescue somebody stranded in the snow. Let them drink the whiskey out or the bourbon, whatever it is. What do you drink?
Yeah, because they got to stay warm.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah. So where does Red Green live up there?
I don't know. Good question.
I love that guy.
It was a good show. And you know what? Alaska Lives, you nailed it right there. Canada has really high requirements for certifications. It's true. Very true.
In Canada, do you guys have like welfare?
Yes, we
in
do.
Canada? Do you?
Yep.
I'd be curious to know like the percentage of the population that's just that's choosing to be lazy and useless and live off of the system versus the same folk in America.
I'm not so convinced about that. I think that most people in Canada are pretty hardworking.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Clive.
Yeah,
I don't know. I got
usually by choice. They just seem to be inherently technical. Maybe it's just the cold climate means they're less likely to just lay about doing nothing, and they're always going to be working or
True.
Listen, where I am, it's as cold as New York. So
Can you?
New York,
Is it possible? Is this something? Can you positively, or am I using the right word? Can you positively stereotype somebody?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, it's just a good stereotype, which is completely
being
false.
Scottish. Okay, the new Jimmy get in my belly. I like eating wee babies. Is that better?
You mean not everybody from Scotland is like that?
I'm not even drinking whiskey.
I wish I was.
I wish I was too. I say that.
I just
every
want you
morning.
guys to know that being Scottish is awesome. I just thought I'd tell you that.
I would love to be Scottish. If I could even fake a Scottish accent, I would do that my entire life and just make up a story that I was from Scotland,
Just
or even Ireland.
do it. I mean, you've got a gingery colored beard, so it's fine. It'll pass.
I've never dug too far into my family tree, but my sister did one of those, DNA tests, ancestry things, or whatever. And somewhere along the lines, I think part of my family is from one part of my family is from Germany, and the other part hails from some part of Scotland.
All right, that's odd because I did that as well, and apparently I'm actually American.
That doesn't surprise me.
Sweet.
See, that's why you're so smart and hardworking.
Yeah, it's all these Americans that say I'm actually Scottish. And when you say, oh, really? Because I'm actually American. It's like, oh,
And they're
right,
like,
okay.
no,
I-
you're not.
Do you know what we
American.
get? See, right at this point in time, if it wasn't for this infernal COVID thing, I'd have been working at Edinburgh Castle at the moment, doing the Royal Edinburgh Military 2, doing the sort of power and lighting and all the technical stuff behind the scenes. But we get Americans turning up and they dress in what they think is period costume that their ancestors would have worn. And basically speaking, Americans turn up in these huge big hemp skirts with like hing doons and things like that. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
So, are you wearing a kilt right now? Then
I am wearing a kilt. No, I have never ever worn a kilt in my life.
do you have
That's
a floor camera?
That's
so
a
we
bit
can see
like
it?
that's a bit like me saying, "Where's your Stetson?" You know,
Yeah.
shouldn't you have a Stetson and be holding guns up and firing them randomly into the air?
Well, that's how most Americans are driving
That
around in
is
their little
actually,
trucks
to be
and
fair,
shooting guns.
absolutely.
You have
yeah.
a pet
Yeah.
bald eagle in your backyard.
That's why we're just, I'm just jealous of
Like
Americans.
we don't have
Just
turn
me-
signals. We just shoot our guns out the left window or the right window. And,
We're not even allowed guns here. It's just so disappointing.
oh,
if
man.
I move to America, one of the first things I do is buy a gun just because I could.
Oh shoot! Here, like the other day, I bought a box of
Uh-huh.
Fruit Loops, and if you send in all the UPC codes from your Fruit Loops, they will send you guns.
Really?
What?
That's how
That is
readily available they are
amazing.
in America. They'll
So
send
how
you
many
guns.
how many Fruit Loops do you have to eat to get a gun?
Just like 12 boxes. It's not that
Oh, right,
much.
that's quite a lot. Mhm.
No, it's not that much at all. Like they stopped doing like the free
Yeah.
little toys and tattoos, and instead you send in the UPCs and they give you like a Glock 1911.
Right, okay, that's nice.
It's fantastic, man.
And stun guns. We're not even allowed stun guns here.
Yeah.
No?
It's
Same.
so disappointing.
As long as you can carry a
Wow.
baseball bat, that's all you need, right?
I think teachers should be allowed to have stun guns in class.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Now,
Like
here's
that.
the thing. Did they ever have punishment in American schools? Because here in the UK, I used to get belted all the time because I was a
They-
really terrible
Oh,
student.
They
Yeah.
used to, like back in the day before all of us got soft.
Back in like the
Mm.
60s and such. My dad used to
Mhm.
talk about getting beat in school. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the belt quite a lot. Oh, well.
Still?
Hmm.
But,
Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
that's a tall glass. I don't know if I'll be
No.
able.
I have to pay for it now. It's
Uh,
a bit,
Good
awkward.
answer. Good answer.
My mom used to
Mm.
break wooden spoons over my behind when I was
Double
a
the
kid.
wooden spoon,
wooden
yeah.
spoons, man. I never got it that bad.
She would have to buy the
Yeah.
full sets because she would break the spoon and then move over to the wooden fork, and then there would be all these like the wooden spatula, and you would break them all, and then she had
The
to buy new.
plastic spatula, the one for stirring the beer. Yeah, that was quite sore.
Yeah. Here's a good one. You guys ever, I don't remember this, but do you guys ever remember from your childhood, like any appliance guys coming over or like HVAC guys coming over to fix anything? I can't remember one single time.
I can
Ever-
actually,
Can you?
because when there's a like really, I so long ago that like I was like 3 or 4 or something like that. I can remember the heating engineers coming to
Hmm.
install hot air heating, and I can remember that they had the moustache of that time, they had the bonnet of that time, a type of hat, and they had the work jacket and the overalls with the wee strap at the back. I can remember all that.
It's like
And
sounds
they
like the
install-
dude Dave Lennox. That's like the,
Oh, yeah.
the picture
Yeah.
I'm getting right
The
now.
overalls and stuff. I'm
Mustache.
gonna start dressing like him when I go do my service calls.
Sorry.
Overalls and that newsboy cap.
Sorry, go ahead, Clive.
Somebody, one of your buddies there, Mike Enko, Bazooka Joe, Gum Collectibles. Remember those, Clive? X-ray specs. I
The
think
what?
I vaguely remember Bazooka Gum.
Bazooka gum. I do kind of remember bazooka gum, and the X-ray specs just basically had holes so your eyes didn't focus properly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't remember those X-ray specs, but I remember the Bazooka Gum wrappers.
I remember having the hypnotic glasses.
Yeah. Nowadays
were-
we have thermal imaging cameras, and you can actually look through people's clothing,
That's pretty cool.
Really?
which is cool, and they're built into phones as well. so
I
you
heard
know,
there was some type of camera you can get with night vision on the camera that you could basically see through clothing.
that is the infrared camera on one of the. Is it the one? Is it the One Plus? Did that, and it was a bit controversial because they suddenly realized they decided not to push it at the advertising when they started to advertise it. Then people realized you could actually look at ladies and it could actually see through their clothing.
You know, you can just Google stuff like that. That's what I do.
You can actually, yeah.
You don't need to try so hard. You know, like all the pervs out there, you don't have to try that hard. Just Google it, you weirdos.
Yeah.
Can
You know,
I
like
say,
all these guys with cameras on their shoes, they just Google it. Yep.
Oh,
I've just ordered a new phone. Like I've just suddenly got right into the fact that Chinese have really latched onto thermal imaging cameras now, and this is great for us because technical people, you should have a ruggedized phone with a thermal imaging camera in it. So this is the Blackview, right? Not an advert, not a sponsor, but I've also ordered now in pre-order an Ulefone 9, which also has a thermal imaging camera, and it's got the endoscope facility. I mean, you could plug that into the port, but they've got a dedicated port for the endoscope.
So the Blackview, is that the manufacturer or the model?
It's the manufacturer.
Okay.
This particular one is a BV9900 Pro, and the Pro bit means it's got that little extra camera there, which is the I think it's what is it? The type of transistor. I think it's gallium, a gallium window. But this is a thermal imaging camera. It can actually see heat, and that is so useful for diagnosing things. If you if you opened up a refrigeration panel and you basically just activated this and then you looked into it, you would instantly see contactors that were burning up inside because they'd be visually hot. I'm just actually...
I ran into a TXV today that I think is improperly feeding, and that would have been cool to have a thermal imaging camera. Just to look at that coil.
Because this thing sees heat. And it's so useful. Once you've had a phone that's got thermal imaging camera, you can just look at electrical connections and you can see, oh, there's a hot connection over there. Like you're not even near it yet, but you can actually see where the heat is. It's like an extra pair of eyes.
That reminds me, what is there a standard, like I think I read this somewhere, a standard temperature that circuit breakers aren't supposed to like go over, like 90 or 100 degrees or something like that?
Ambient temperature can affect them. If they get too hot, it will affect their trip threshold.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was like 90 or 100 degrees because...
Yeah, vibration is also a factor. If you have something where something's thumping or banging against it, like a panel, a loose panel in the wind, it can actually cause breakers to trip with the vibration aspect.
See, Joe, that's why you got to move that breaker panel out of your bedroom.
And not mount it in the back of your bed.
Yeah. A little dungeon. You know what? The phone I have there, Clive, like when you say infrared, because I could get an app and you could put infrared on this camera.
Oh, right. Okay. The infrared app is fake. It just emulates, it makes it look like a thermal imaging camera. The thermal imaging camera is a very specific type of camera, usually made by FLIR. And it's quite low resolution. It's only like 80 by 60 pixels. But in reality, that's enough to actually, because it overlays it with, it's got a little extra camera next to it that gives it an overlaid image so you can see where you're aiming. And then it sort of works out what should be sort of shown as hot and what's not, and it increases the resolution.
You could also get that little attachment that plugs in your phone, though.
Absolutely. But the downside of those is if you're like at work and it's raining or you drop it and it flexes, it's quite nice to have it because this phone is waterproof and impact resistant as well.
Wow.
What's the price tag on that phone?
See, it used to be expensive. The Caterpillar phones made by a company called Bullet were something like £800 each, which would be the best part of $1,000.
Oh, wow.
These Chinese ones are about half the price and have the same sensor in them.
Really?
And, it means that suddenly they've become really affordable in technical terms.
Is that an Android phone?
It is an Android phone,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so FLIR 1. Sorry.
Yeah, this actually blows the Cat S61 out of the water. This is just so much better. This cheap Chinese phone is just blows the Cat camera away.
It's half the price.
That's weird. Yeah.
The Blackview.
You can't question Clive about what's inside it because I'm pretty sure he could look.
Yeah,
it's just weird how one price is one. It's like anything else.
It's just it's marked up. The Bullet one, which is the Cat, is branded Caterpillar, and it just hypes it up. So then it's like a premium device.
But, name.
Thermal imaging circuitry, the FLIR sensors, the lepton sensors have made things so affordable that now the Chinese have just got hold of that, and suddenly there's engineers' phones that are just affordable. And if you break it, which is unlikely because this is military spec drop and water, not that I've tested that, but it's just become affordable. And I see in the future that a lot more will have that because it's a really useful function and it's going to become standard in many phones.
Yeah, that's my next project for sure, is to get an infrared. I've been saying that. I think that's the next. I already have a phone, but if I don't get the FLIR one, I might get some kind of Chinese Wish phone to get a thermal
don't
imaging.
use Wish. Goodness,
I know.
What we get off Wish. I would actually recommend. We're talking AliExpress earlier on. Blackview have a dedicated shop on AliExpress, and that's where I got this one from.
Blackview. I just don't know what AliExpress is. I never even heard of that before.
Go to the Google, Joe.
Heard of Alibaba?
Alibaba, yes. It's
Alibaba is aimed at like big buyers, like manufacturers or importers or sellers, in a country. So they're only interested in big transactions. AliExpress is the eBay version with the same manufacturers.
Oh, see, I thought I was going to a different path here, Clive. When you said Alibaba, I was thinking of shawarmas, because that's the only Alibaba I know over here. Is eating shawarmas.
Joe, Alibaba is one of the biggest companies in the world.
It's like Amazon. It's like Amazon.
Yeah. It's like the Amazon of China. Yeah.
So this whole time you thought we were talking about like shawarmas and like meat sandwiches?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
It sounds delicious.
Interesting.
You can buy anything off of Alibaba.
You thought we were like going to a shawarma place and like ordering all this stuff, and
maybe.
Joe is so excited. Joe is so excited right now. His camera is defocused.
Oh yeah, that's my excitement.
Thank
it's too much.
That's how we can tell how excited he is. It's when that happens.
He's got a lot of humidity in his house. That's why.
Yeah, my relative humidity just spiked up. I think my battery's dying. I got to plug.
Oh, it's focused again. No, it's fine.
Okay. There we go. Well,
just for reference, if you use a phone to record, using the front camera is usually fixed focus, so it doesn't actually do that sort of complicated stuff. If you used a phone,
there's also a setting that we keep telling him to turn on, but
I checked.
I'm not sure like what the deal is. I don't think he presses the save button or.
So it turns out sometimes Canadians aren't that tech savvy.
Well, I think it's basically when it goes out of focus, that's the beauty setting kicking in.
Yeah. It's saying, what? I got to step it down a notch.
That's the filter.
We have to step it down a notch. It's getting too overbearing of beauty. It is. We have to step it down.
It is. There's a couple guys in the chat hitting on Joe tonight.
There you go.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
If I had a nickel every time I've seen a guy hit on Joe.
Right? You'll be rich. I'll be rich.
Well, Bill?
Yeah.
What do you say, guys? I think it's about time to wrap it up. I think everybody's had probably just enough overtime for this week. So, first and foremost,
my supercomputer up here has caused major compression issues. I just want to mention that.
Has it?
The lights look different.
Well, he changed the color his last stream. He mentioned it. I've seen it.
Oh,
which is pretty cool.
The pattern looks different, though.
The pattern?
Yeah. Like, I didn't memorize the pattern, but it just...
Oh, you can't memorize it. It's random.
Is it?
Yeah.
It seems different.
I think it's the colors that's throwing you off, yeah. I think it looks a lot better with the color, to be honest with you.
Is that better?
Half our audience just had a seizure.
Jeez.
All right.
Very nice.
Yeah. Interesting.
Multicolor.
That's nuts. So when you change the color, Bill, you have to do it individual. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, it's individual LEDs.
Okay. Ouch.
What do you think about the idea of encapsulating that in epoxy? Will that work?
I think that's a terrible idea because LEDs are not as reliable as they make out. So if you encapsulate it in epoxy, it won't be serviceable in the future. I tend to avoid encapsulating stuff. But if you mount it onto glass and put a bead of silicon round or something like that to stop it actually water getting in and stuff like that, then at least it will be somehow serviceable afterwards. Particularly if you put a smear of Vaseline on and then put the silicon on so that you can actually lift the glass off afterwards to actually get access again. It lets you repair things or update them and improve them.
Good point.
Interesting.
We should actually talk about that next time you're on here, Clive, about protecting our printed boards that we see on the field all the time. But anyways.
Spray-on conformal coating, but you have to be careful what components you spray it on, not potentiometers and stuff like that. The adjustments.
Say that again. Say that again, Clive.
Spray-on conformal coating. It's a thick, sticky lacquer that it sprays on that creates a sort of insulated layer over the whole circuit board. But you have to be careful about things like switches or the adjustable potentiometers, that if it got into them, it would actually mess up the contacts.
Yeah, I guess like arcing or something like that.
No, just actually going in and gluing them together.
Oh, wow.
It is basically, it's lacquer. It's like spraying it with varnish or lacquer.
That's a good point there. I never thought about that. We
but
use all these. Yeah,
there's another thing you should know about. Volatile corrosion, VCIs, volatile corrosion inhibitor, or volatile, what's the name of it? VCI is the name of it anyway. It's an oil with a solvent, and if you put a pad of it inside the unit or spray it into the unit and then close the door, it evaporates the oil and it creates a molecular film of oil over everything inside the panel. But it has to be a sealed panel so it can coat everything. But when it's done that, it makes it completely resilient to water on the surface if there's much humidity in causing problems.
How that's a good idea as well. How about just putting a big glob of silica powders? The ones you get in like your tools that absorbs the moisture. But anyways.
That's the silica gel.
Yes.
Once it's absorbed the moisture, then it's screwed. This stuff, have you ever, when you buy tools, sometimes there's a bit of brown paper in it, wrapped around it, and it's just sort of waxy paper. That's a volatile corrosion inhibitor. Now, just give us a second. I'm going to go and grab a bottle because I think it's American made anyway. One moment.
So now he's got me
all right,
thinking.
Everyone hide off camera. Hide.
We'll just let him come back, Walby. See, now he's got me thinking about those.
No,
you didn't hide. I just did it by myself.
I couldn't do that.
I did. You didn't see me though. I'm like John Cena. You can't see me. See, now I'm thinking about those plastic bags that the control boards come in. The static bags.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah.
I wonder if there's any sort of corrosion inhibitor in those.
So this stuff, VCI oil blend, V80 it's called. This is stuff that's used by people who want to keep their weapons, their guns intact, but it's also used in electrical panels. And Van Patten Industries, it's called www.theinhibitor.com. So this is an oil, but if you actually put some into a panel and the panel's pretty well sealed, it will vaporize, but it will vaporize that oil and just put a molecular layer of oil on everything, including circuit boards, and it protects them from corrosion, and it also protects them from moisture causing electrical problems.
Yeah, especially the new boards, we see more of them. What's it called? I can't remember the name of them now.
So do you have to put it in like a little shot glass or something? How do you pour it into like a little container or something like that?
You could either squirt it on the stuff, but generally speaking, you used to get pads, like little, almost like, can you imagine the little single portions of creamer or milk you get, you peel the tab off, but it'd be like that, but inside it would be a sponge and a double-sided tape pad, and you put it into the panel, you peeled the top off, and it was just a sponge soaked with this stuff, and then closed the door. And after that, it just coated all the stuff inside the panel. But you have to be careful with things like humidity sensors. Don't use it with humidity sensors because it will screw them up. It will actually stop them detecting humidity by putting an oil film on them.
But they'll never rust, though.
They won't rust. They'll be great. They'll last forever. They won't measure humidity, but they'll last forever.
Yeah, and the humidity controls usually are plastic anyways. So, but anyways. That's a good point. Maybe on the customers you do like, you could put that in their unit.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we go to end this thing, before the show, Clive had a special new kind of woofer made out of some sort of dry shampoo.
Oh, right. Okay. You get to choose then.
Yes, good point.
This is the best way to end anything.
The Batiste dry shampoo. Or do you want Co-op dry shampoo? Hold on, I'm going to do the beard, right? Okay. This might not work.
That's pretty.
It actually does leave a line.
That's like that looks like you paid for that.
It's so much worse.
It's legit.
Because as it dries, it gets whiter, and you see all the powder dropping off it. But anyway, the real thing is, I shouldn't. Not
What's
sure
it smell like?
Now I'm going to
Yeah,
use
be
naked-
careful now, Bill. But
Yeah,
sorry, Clive. Again, I said it.
Yeah, Bill. Yeah, because it's like beard rubber.
But,
Oh no, it didn't. Oh, yeah. See, it is quite flammable.
That's
yeah,
not
I
bad.
can't believe dry shampoo. First of all, who would have thought it exists?
So does that mean you
And-
spray that on your hair and then you walk around all day avoiding candles?
Yeah, you look like you've turned into Santa. Yeah. So this is the idea about this is that
You should dye that. That looks cool that way, Clive.
I had a co-worker at Disney, a guy called Brad, and he had chestnut brown. He was young. He had chestnut brown hair and a beard, but he'd been struck in the face with a ball when he was young, right in the middle, and it had killed some sort of nerve, and he had a perfect white stripe down his beard, and it was always there. He couldn't avoid it. It was this perfect white stripe right down the middle of the beard. It looked fantastic.
Like Rogue from X-Men.
Can you believe how straight he did that, guys?
That was actually
looks great. Like, you should
Keep
do
in
that.
mind, I'm an electrician, not a refrigeration engineer.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're gonna end it on that note.
You look like a wizard.
Yep, true. Like
Well.
a Gandalf had like a brother or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you
Like
notice how it looks like it's getting whiter though as it dries?
True.
And then,
True.
and then you dust
Does
it.
it
and
stay
it's almost-
flammable? Does it stay
Yeah, it doesn't come
flammable?
out. And then it'll be like all the fluff down my front now
Like
because
Gandalf went to wizard school and then Clive went to electrical school.
Will
so
will
apparently women use this. I don't know why. It's just weird.
will that stay flammable? Is it still flammable like now in your beard?
Hold on.
I bet you it is. Oh man.
Don't ever. Oh my god. I think your fans will
it's
have
too-
heart attacks.
I'm not sure if it actually beats this one though, because this one is pretty good.
You should
It's
get a fake,
louder.
you should get a fake beard or a wig or something and try that out.
Yeah, just don't wear it.
Like a Barbie doll.
Flambo Barbie dolls. Well, that's my. I was going to say that's one of my most viral videos. The Fanny.
The one with the
Flambo,
firecracker?
Yeah, but it's been overtaken by a technical video, basic electronics.
Ah.
I know. You know what? I keep on saying we have to get out of here. But one thing, you know what popped up on my stream a couple times, Bill? Clive.
Yeah, Canadian.
It's the
Oh,
beard.
yeah.
It's the
Well,
beers.
they're both Scottish.
Is
That's true.
They're both
You can
Scottish.
tell
Is
by
the-
my accent.
Is you dissected the that it's not. It looks like a butt plug.
I don't
That's
even know what
what?
those look like.
It kept on coming up. I don't know if it was a dolphin talk, but it kept on coming up on
Oh,
you know.
the electric butt plug thing. Yeah,
Did it have
Yeah.
a tail on it?
it was odd. Yeah.
No tail. Yeah, that kept on popping up. Just want to share that, but
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I can't think of a better time to end
Yeah,
the
nope.
stream.
So we're gonna end it right there. Thanks for stopping in, guys.
you
Clive.
guys are assholes.
Clive, as always, it's always a pleasure to have you on the
Yeah,
show.
it's
We really
awesome.
do
Always a
appreciate
pleasure
it.
being on. Absolutely.
Conversations are so educational. I don't even know what to do with all this information.
And remember, I've got a live stream tomorrow, but it will go on for a long
4
time.
o'clock,
Always
yeah.
does.
3 hours,
Goes on
4
for
hours.
At least
I'll
3
be
hours
there.
it will go on. But you have to bring a drink and snacks with you. That's the
Yes.
only requirement.
That's
Have
true.
to.
I'll be there tomorrow because I got nothing going on. So I'm going to be there tomorrow.
BigCliveLive.com.
Wow!